I think the therapy balls are really great in the tote when working the forearms. I feel like it creates a nice little groove for the forearm to lie in. So let's start with the palmar side so that you can just lean in and just start to roll along from the wrist up the palmar side. It's actually the anterior side when we're in anatomical position of the forearm, getting into all of the wrist flexors and the finger flexors. The top hand is a nice guide. This is a really great thing to do even at the desk. And then when you find a spot of sensation, create a little extra compression over the top and then bend and straighten the wrist. You may even feel as you extend the wrist that the fingers curl up. And then maybe see what happens if you open the fingers and then let it come down. And then as you bring the wrist up, notice how the fingers curl. Then what happens is you stretch out the fingers and then let them come down. And then when that becomes smooth, find the next spot up the chain, still in the forearm. And all of the forearm muscles connect to the inside of the elbow. So there may be a tender spot as you get right to where the elbow and the forearm meet. You can add that pin and stretch, which we kind of made almost like a curling action. This is actually a intrinsic finger muscle exercise as well. And then just strip along that forearm again. And then just flip the palm. Start at the back of the wrist. Get a nice mobilization, feeling the sensation at the back of your wrist. You might even feel as you kind of roll over the back of the wrist, there becomes a little flexion of the wrist. This area will get compressed in that typing position. And then start to make your way up the back of the forearm. I like to use my opposite hand as a little added pressure. Leaning in with your body. And then again, as you find a place of increased density or sensation, you may bend and straighten the wrist. So flex and extend the wrist and create a little compression. So sandwich the forearm with the top arm, with the opposite arm. This one, the fingers aren't as influential unless if you want to curl the fist as you pull up and then drop it back. You could curl the fist like you're doing a biceps curl and holding a little weight. And working your way up. Finding one more spot to land and pin and stretch. And then release, shake out the hand and the arm, and then just do a little flexion of the wrist and extension of the wrist, and just notice the difference from one side to the other. Doing a little check-in in halfway. Then take a single ball out of your tote, and let's get into the palm. I like to come up a little higher as I get into the palm so I can lean over it. So I'm going to place the heel of my hand right on the therapy ball, and then I'm just going to lean in. And I'm going to get right at the base of the palm, where the palmar fascia begins, right beneath the carpal tunnel. So I spread the carpal tunnel a little bit, and I create these little circles right there. And I'm going to start really small right at the base of my palm and hand. And then I'm going to start to make those circles a little bit bigger so that they come and it crosses over all the knuckles so that it spreads along the knuckles. And then I'm just going to place my weight right into the palm. I'm going to lean over it. I may even do a little churning, kind of get a little twisting like a washing machine action if it feels good. Feeling that deep pressure right into the palm, spreading the palm. And then bringing the ball out along each of the fingers. Pull back along the pinky finger. Pull back along the ring finger. Middle. Index. And then work your way back along the fingers. Then we'll do the thumb in a second. Feeling that individual extension of each finger. And then when you get back over to the thumb side, go out along the thumb, drop the hand down the side so you really feel the thumb come out to the side. Notice that stretch and feel how it starts to get right into that webbed space between the index finger and the thumb. And make sure that it's coming from right from the wrist, not the thumb joint, but from that almost from the wrist joint, and then creating what we call like a thumb split. Place that ball right there and press your weight right down into the thumb, into that space between the thumb and the index finger. And then release, and then let's go over to the other side. So I'm going to take my balls back into the tote. And I'm going to start on the palmar side, starting right at the base of the wrist, right by the carpal tunnel, slowly stripping, working your way up. First exploring with a little stripping, up and down. And then when you find a spot of density or sensation, just pause, bring the fingers up and down. You may feel how when you bring the wrist up, the fingers curl. That's a normal mechanism in the body to help with gripping. So come through that curl, then spread the fingers. Feel that stretch through the palm and through the fingers, and then come down. Do a few more of those rolls, pulling up, straightening out the fingers, and then come down. This is a nice intrinsic movement for the hands and fingers. Even spread them wide when you get to the top. Maybe one more time, then continue rolling, working your way up all the way to the elbow to where those muscles originate on the inside compartment. Pausing at that point. Feeling where you have another point of density, of hypomobility or sensation, trying a few more rounds of your hand and finger action, using the pin and stretch action of the joint below to free up the glide and the slide of all of the connective tissues lying between the body and the ball. And then turn the wrist over. Start right at the back of the wrist. Get that place just opposite of the carpal tunnel. So that would be your extensor retinaculum. And then work your way up the forearm. Pausing at a point of sensation. Adding a little pin and stretch. Maybe you even make a little fist, kind of like you're doing a bicep curl with that little extra wrist flexion. And then let the fingers drop back, so curling up. Creating a little additional pressure from the top hand so that you sandwich the tissues between the hand and the therapy balls. And then making your way all the way up to the elbow. And then find one more ball stop to use the wrist as a lever. Feeling the tissues glide under the ball. And then take one ball out of the tote. Change position if it feels right for a little bit more leverage. Place the base of the palm right into the therapy ball. Creating little circles to begin. make those circles bigger so that they start to go across the knuckles, spreading the knuckles, using your other hand, your opposite hand, just as a guide. Try to think about keeping your weight up over the ball. So instead of being back behind it, think about being up on top of it. So you're pressing straight down. And then try circling the other direction. And notice if one way is easier than the other. And then land right in the middle of the palm. Press down and get a little scrubbing, a little washing machine action right into the middle of your palm. Just sustained compression, the little ringing. Hold that pressure into the ball. And then allow it to release. And then now come along the fingers. So let that ball come out along the pinky finger, extending through the pinky, ring finger. Staying with the 4 long fingers, we'll come to the thumb after. So we'll go from pinky to index finger and back. And then we'll go back to the index finger again. So we get a few rounds of lengthening. And then the next time you come to the thumb, stretch out through the thumb, trying to get that lengthening from the wrist out so that it's not just that hitchhiker's thumb, but the whole thumb, the whole body of the thumb from the base of the wrist, stretching out there. And feeling how that stretches through the entire triangle, the web space. Careful not to hyperextend in the thumb joint. And then take that ball right into that crease. Press straight down again. Your weight is going straight down over. And you may even get a little of that twisting action here to really nestle the ball in. And then release. Go ahead and let go of the balls. And now let's integrate that hand and wrist mobility with 2 yoga postures. So let's take the blocks off to the side. Unless you would like the blocks, if your hands don't reach the floor in forward fold, I'll actually show you a nice variation. So come to stand. Allow yourself to come, oops, no, too much. So come to stand and let yourself roll forward into a forward fold and take the backs of your hands to the floor. Your knees can be pretty bent. If they don't reach the if they don't reach the floor, this is where the blocks will be really nice so that you can get that weight bearing. But I would prefer getting them to the floor and bending the knees and then stepping the hands right under the feet so the toes come right to the crease of your wrist. And if the knees are really bent, that's totally fine. You should feel like you're curled up a bit here. And we just worked the wrist and hands because we spend so much time on our phones, at our computers. And so this is that's a nice way to start. Start in that place of tightness or sensation, starting distally, but then bringing it into a full body movement. So allowing the entire body to now be integrated into that work that we just did. Even feel a little massage of the palms here with the toes. Curl the toes. Shake the head no. See if you can let gravity allow the body to be really heavy as you curl in, letting go of any stress that you're holding on in the head, in the jaw. Open and close the mouth, in the neck. Shake the head no and nod the head yes. Let the shoulders drop, elbows bend slightly. So the whole body is heavy here, being pulled down by gravity, letting you completely unwind and release. Take one more exhale through the mouth. And then take the hands out. And now let's do the complete opposite motion. Sitting on your behind, bend your knees, bring your hands behind you. Fingers pointing forward. Now, press the palms into the floor. Spread your fingers wide. And now lift the hips up. Draw the shoulders back. So now you get that opening in the chest. And I really love to add a little forward and backward rock here. So we just went to this full front body compression. Now we're doing a full front body expansion. So now see if you can let the head fall back. Looking at the wall behind you, can you open and close the jaw again? Can you draw the shoulder blades down and back so that you open through the biceps, through the pecs, through the front of the hips, undoing all of that sitting that comes with our computer and phone work. Hold this for 3 more rounds of breath. Take one more round. And then release down. Perfect. So that's a really nice flow that you can do to get out of sitting at the desk, to address those wrists and hands after doing prolonged computer work. And it's really nice to work locally and then globally integrating it into the whole body.